The colony ship Aurora Dawn glided silently through the black expanse of space. Its hull shimmered under the light of distant stars, a fragile speck of humanity in the vast void. Commander Ethan Kane stood on the observation deck, his hands clasped. Behind his back, eyes scanning the familiar blue-green planet below. The colony was on the edge of explored space, and its people had been struggling. A mysterious disease had spread among the colonists, and now Ethan had arrived to oversee the relief efforts. He had seen many crises before, but this felt different. The colony was isolated with limited medical resources, and the disease was unpredictable. People were dying faster than the doctors could treat them. As he turned to leave the deck, he caught sight of her. Lyra moved with a grace that seemed almost unnatural. Her skin glimmered faintly in the artificial light, and her eyes, large and luminous, reflected intelligence and calm. She wore the standard medical uniform of the Valens, the alien species known for their advanced technology and secretive ways. But something about her presence was comforting rather than intimidating. "She's the nurse?" Ethan asked one of the medics nearby. "Yes, Commander." "Lyra," the medic replied. "She's unusual, highly skilled. She knows human biology, better than some of our own doctors." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Better than humans? That's rare." The medic shrugged. "Just watch her work. You'll see." Later that day, the first patient crisis hit. A small child, pale and trembling, had collapsed in the settlement square. Panic spread among the colonists. Ethan ran with the medics, and Lyra was already there, kneeling beside the boy. Her hands moved quickly, applying treatments that Ethan didn't fully understand. She whispered something in her melodic alien language, then used a small device that glowed faintly. Within moments, the boy's breathing steadied, color returning to his cheeks. Ethan felt a surge of relief. The other humans around him stared in awe. "How did she do that?" one of the medics asked, voice trembling. Lyra looked up and smiled, faintly. Her eyes met Ethan's for a moment. "Sometimes the body just needs guidance," she said softly in perfect human speech. Ethan felt a strange pull in his chest. He had faced countless dangers, but this calm confidence, this quiet brilliance, it was unlike anything he had ever seen. He helped lift the boy onto a stretcher and noticed the other colonists watching her with admiration, some even whispering, in awe. Over the next few days, Ethan observed her closely. She worked tirelessly, moving from patient to patient. The way she analyzed symptoms, anticipated complications, and applied treatments, it was beyond human skill. Yet, she was always kind, never condescending. One evening, as the colony settled, under the dim glow of artificial lights, Ethan noticed Lyra in the medical bay. She was alone, her fingers flying across a touchscreen displaying data he couldn't fully interpret. Lines of code, genetic sequences, charts he didn't recognize. It all seemed far more advanced than anything a human nurse would handle. Ethan stepped closer. "You're up late," he said. Lyra turned, her eyes reflecting surprise. "Commander Kane," she said softly. "I was reviewing patient responses. Patterns sometimes emerge that are not obvious." Ethan nodded, but a small knot of unease formed in his stomach. "Patterns? Of what?" She paused. "The disease. How it interacts with humans. And with alien physiology, it's complex." Ethan frowned. "I see. You spend a lot of time with these patterns." Lyra gave a small nod. "Understanding is important, so we can help." The sincerity in her voice made him hesitate. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her than she was letting on. The way she moved, the way she analyzed every detail. It was almost as if she already knew outcomes before they happened. Over the next week, Ethan and Lyra worked closely. He learned that humans could survive with far less than most other species needed. She admired their resilience, often commenting on how humans adapted quickly to situations other species would struggle with. Ethan found himself explaining human culture, telling stories of exploration, survival, and courage. Lyra listened, fascinated, sometimes even smiling softly at the tales. Despite her alien nature, she began to seem less like a stranger and more like a companion. He found himself thinking of her when he wasn't at her side, wondering about her, thoughts and feelings. For the first time in years, Ethan felt a spark of something he hadn't experienced on any battlefield, curiosity mixed with admiration. Then came a subtle warning. Some supplies began disappearing. Certain patients showed strange, almost miraculous recoveries. Ethan noticed Lyra accessing restricted areas and databases, always returning as if nothing had happened. He confronted a fellow medic. "Is something wrong with Lyra?" he asked quietly. The medic hesitated. "Commander, she's unusual. Some say she's not just a nurse. She's observing, testing humans in ways we don't understand." Ethan frowned, a chill running down his spine. He had trusted her instinctively, but now doubt crept in. Could someone so close, so vital, have secrets that threatened the very people he was sworn to protect? That night, Ethan stood on the observation deck again, looking at the colony below. The lights flickered in the settlements, life continuing despite the threat of disease. Somewhere in the medical bay, Lyra worked alone, her hands moving across screens and devices. He didn't know if she was a guardian or a spy, a healer or something more dangerous, but one thing was certain. He was drawn to her. He didn't just want to trust her. He needed to understand her. And soon, he would learn that the alien nurse he had begun to admire carried secrets that could change everything for humanity. And for him. The colony buzzed with activity the next morning. People rushed to the medical tents, carrying patients or checking on loved ones. Commander Ethan Kane moved among them, observing, directing, and listening. His eyes often found Lyra, who worked, silently, at the center of the chaos. She moved like a calm river through a storm, touching patients with care, scanning monitors with precision, and speaking words that seemed to ease fear and pain. Ethan had spent a week watching her, learning her routines and trying to understand her. There was something different about her. Not just her skill, but her attention to detail, the way she seemed to predict what would happen next. He could not shake the feeling that she was hiding something. That morning, a shipment of medical supplies arrived from Earth. Ethan walked with Lyra as she inspected the crates, checking every item. Her fingers brushed over the containers, scanning labels and devices. She paused, frowning slightly. "Commander," she said softly, "some of these medicines are not compatible with certain alien physiology. We must segregate them carefully." Ethan nodded. "Good catch. We can't afford mistakes with these." Lyra gave him a faint smile, almost shy. "Errors can be costly." Ethan felt a small thrill. Her concern was real, but there was always something just beyond his understanding. He wanted to trust her completely, yet a part of him remained cautious. The day passed in a blur of activity. Patients arrived, some weak and trembling, others barely conscious. Lyra worked tirelessly, moving from one person to another, her hands and devices moving in a practiced rhythm. Ethan noticed how children seemed to calm in her presence. Even the most frightened adults looked at her with hope. During a brief break, Ethan approached her. "Lyra," he said quietly, "can I ask you something?" She looked up, her large eyes meeting his. "Of course, Commander. Do you ever get tired? You work non-stop, and yet you seem to see everything, know everything." She paused. "Humans are strong, Commander. You adapt quickly. Perhaps I am learning from you as much as you learn from me." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. There it was again. Her words seemed personal, sincere. He wondered if she felt more than professional concern for him, or if he was imagining it. Later, Ethan visited the quarantine area. A group of colonists had fallen ill suddenly, their symptoms worsening faster than expected. Doctors and medics moved frantically, and Ethan felt the familiar tension rise. Lyra was already there, kneeling beside a young woman whose breathing was shallow. She placed her hands lightly on the woman's chest, closed her eyes, and whispered something in her native language. A small device in her hand pulsed with soft blue light. The woman's breathing steadied. Ethan blinked. The other medics exchanged glances, amazed. "How do you do that?" Ethan asked, lowering his voice. Lyra looked at him, eyes serious. "I study patterns, Commander. Every body has a rhythm, a response. If you know it, you can guide it?" Ethan nodded slowly, though he did not fully understand. He admired her skill, but questions still lingered. That evening, as the colony quieted, Ethan returned to the medical bay. Lyra was there, again alone, working with devices and screens he did not recognize. He stepped closer, trying to see what she was doing. "Lyra," he said softly, "I need to ask, what are you really doing here?" She froze for a moment, her eyes reflecting surprise. "I help the patients, Commander," she said carefully. "That is my duty." Ethan frowned. "Is it? I mean, you're clearly skilled. Maybe more than any nurse should be. You access databases, analyze patterns, even predict outcomes. Are you just a nurse?" Lyra hesitated. She looked down, then back at him. "I am here to serve, but there are things I observe. Things humans do that are remarkable. Adaptation, problem-solving, resilience. These qualities, they matter." Ethan's heart beat faster. There was truth in her words, but also something she wasn't saying. "Observe? You mean study us?" She nodded slightly. "I am gathering information, not for harm, for understanding. My species has interest in humans, but I see there is more to you than we expected." Ethan took a step back, feeling a mixture of relief and tension. He admired her, yet he now knew there was a secret purpose behind her actions. "So you're some kind of spy?" Lyra shook her head gently. "Not a spy, Commander. An observer. I learn. I report. But I am beginning to wonder what I should report." Her words struck him. Beneath her calm, professional exterior, there was doubt, curiosity, maybe even admiration. Ethan felt a spark of hope. If she questioned her mission, perhaps humans had a chance to earn her trust fully. Over the next days, Ethan and Lyra grew closer. He found himself seeking her advice, sharing stories of human courage, explaining strategy, and laughing at small jokes. Lyra listened intently, occasionally smiling or commenting with insight. Their bond deepened, though Ethan kept a careful distance. He had learned to admire, but he had also learned to watch. Yet the colony itself reminded him of the stakes. The disease had not vanished. Patients still fell ill unexpectedly. Supplies were limited. And somewhere in her quiet way, Lyra was always watching, calculating, recording. One night, Ethan returned to his quarters, exhausted. He thought of Lyra, alone in the medical bay, working tirelessly. He realized he cared about her, not just for her skill, but for the strange combination of mystery, intelligence, and quiet kindness she carried. But he also knew the truth. She had a mission he did not fully understand. And whatever it was, it could change everything for the colony. And for him. He closed his eyes, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new patients, and new opportunities to understand the alien nurse he had begun to trust, and perhaps even love. The next morning, the colony stirred with uneasy energy. Patients who had seemed stable the day before now showed new symptoms. Commander Ethan Kane paced the medical center, his eyes scanning the monitors and charts. He knew that every hour mattered. Lives were at stake, and every decision could mean the difference between survival and death. Lyra moved through the chaos like she had done countless times before. Her hands were steady, her voice calm, guiding human medics and alien helpers alike. But Ethan noticed something different today. Her gaze lingered on the patients longer than usual, and her fingers hovered over the controls as if calculating something beyond the visible numbers. He approached her. "Lyra, what is it? You seem distracted." She looked at him, her eyes revealing a flicker of unease. "Commander, the disease, it behaves strangely with humans. Their bodies respond in ways my data did not predict. There are patterns emerging." Ethan frowned. Patterns? What kind of patterns? Lyra hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Some patients show rapid recovery beyond standard expectations. Others resist treatment in ways unusual for humans. It is fascinating. Your species adapts quickly in ways my mission did not anticipate." Ethan's stomach tightened. Fascinating. That was a word no human patient's suffering should ever provoke. "Are you saying the disease isn't affecting humans normally?" She shook her head. "It affects, yes. But humans? You are resilient. You improvise. You survive in conditions that would break other species." Her words stirred pride, but also suspicion. Ethan had begun to trust her, maybe even admire her. Yet this was a reminder. Lyra's presence was not just healing. She was studying, analyzing, recording. Later that day, Ethan received an urgent message. A group of colonists had fallen critically ill at the outer settlement. The terrain was rugged and transportation was difficult. Ethan and Lyra set out in the small shuttle, navigating the rocky surface as dust kicked up around them. When they arrived, the scene was grim. The colonists lay pale and trembling, some barely conscious. Human medics were overwhelmed. Lyra stepped forward immediately, assessing each patient with rapid precision. She barked short instructions to the humans, and soon they began moving in organized sequences, following her lead. Ethan watched her hands move over devices, her voice calm but firm. Then she paused at one patient, a young man whose breathing was shallow. Ethan noticed a subtle change in her demeanor. She seemed almost anxious. "Commander," she said quietly, "this one may not survive standard treatment. I need to use a method not authorized by colony protocols." Ethan hesitated. He had learned to trust her judgment, but this was different. "What method?" he asked. She looked at him, her large eyes earnest. "It is experimental. I have seen it succeed, but only under precise conditions. You must trust me." Ethan considered. He had faced countless crises and learned that hesitation could kill. He nodded. "Do what you must." Lyra moved quickly, her hands glowing faintly as she applied the device to the patient. She whispered in her language, monitoring his vital signs. Ethan watched tensely as the numbers fluctuated, heartbeats stabilizing, breathing deepening. Within moments, the young man's color returned. The human medics gasped. "I've never seen that work," one said. Lyra gave a faint nod, but her eyes remained serious. "It works if the pattern is correct. Misalignment could be fatal." After the crisis, Ethan pulled her aside. "Lyra, I need to ask something important. Are you just a nurse? Or is there more to your mission?" Her lips pressed together. She hesitated, then spoke softly. "Commander, I am an observer. My people sent me to study human adaptation. My mission is to report on your species, to see if humans can survive threats my species believes may come in the future." Ethan's heart sank. "You were sent here to test us?" Lyra shook her head. "Not to harm, to understand. But I see now that your species is stronger than expected. Your choices, your resilience, they are remarkable. I am beginning to question what I should report." Ethan felt a mixture of relief and tension. He admired her honesty, but her mission was still a reminder that trust was fragile. "Lyra, can I trust you to protect the colony? No matter what your mission says?" She looked at him, her eyes steady. "Commander, I want to. I choose to help humans. But there may be consequences if my superiors learn the truth." The weight of her words pressed on him, but he felt something else too, a spark of hope. Humans had inspired even an alien observer to question orders. Perhaps that was proof of what humans could achieve. Over the next days, Lyra continued to work tirelessly. But now Ethan noticed small changes in her. She smiled more, shared insights openly, and even asked questions about human customs and history. They shared quiet moments in the evenings, discussing survival strategies, storytelling, and human courage. Ethan realized he was growing closer to her, not just as a colleague, but as someone he could respect and perhaps even care for. Yet the shadow of doubt lingered. The disease remained unpredictable. Strange recoveries, missing supplies, and her secretive methods reminded Ethan that the colony's safety could never be taken for granted. He had come to rely on her brilliance, but he could not forget that she carried secrets capable of changing everything. One night, Ethan returned to the observation deck. The colony lay quiet under the pale light of distant stars. Somewhere in the medical bay, Lyra worked alone, her hands moving over devices, her eyes scanning data. He realized that he did not fully understand her, and perhaps never would. But for the first time, he felt something beyond duty and survival. He felt a bond, fragile but real, with the alien nurse who had entered his life. Trust, admiration, curiosity, and a strange warmth mingled inside him. Ethan knew the path ahead would be difficult. The disease, the unknown, and Lyra's mission were challenges he could not control. Yet he resolved to face them, not alone, but with the woman who had begun to inspire him, and whose real mission was only just beginning to surface. And in the quiet of the stars, Ethan Kane understood one thing clearly. The colony's future, and perhaps his own heart, now depended on the choices of an alien nurse whose secrets could change everything. The sun rose over the colony, painting the rocky terrain in shades of gold and orange. Commander Ethan Kane stood near the landing bay, overseeing the arrival of new supplies. The disease had slowed, but not stopped. Patients still fell ill unexpectedly, and the strain on human medics was growing. Lyra moved among the crates, organizing medical devices with precision. Her calm presence reassured the humans around her, yet Ethan sensed an underlying tension. She was focused, but there was something in her eyes he had not seen before, a flicker of worry, almost fear. "Lyra," Ethan said as he approached, "is something wrong?" She paused, glancing at him briefly. "Commander, I received a transmission from my people last night. They are displeased with my reports." Ethan frowned. "Displeased? For what?" "They believe my observations are biased, that I'm favoring humans. They want me to conduct a full test of your species' resilience. My mission is no longer passive." Ethan's stomach tightened. "A test? You mean a threat to the colony?" Lyra shook her head quickly. "Not exactly, but they want to see humans face extreme conditions, to measure limits. If the colony fails, consequences could be severe." Ethan felt a surge of anger and fear. The woman he had begun to trust, perhaps even care for, was caught between loyalty to her species and her growing admiration for humans. He knew she faced a choice that could change everything. The first sign of trouble came hours later. A sudden outbreak hit one of the outer settlements. The disease accelerated rapidly and panic spread. Ethan and Lyra rushed to the scene, navigating the rough terrain as colonists cried out for help. Lyra immediately took control. Her hands moved quickly, administering treatments, scanning vitals, and directing human medics with precision. Ethan observed, impressed as always, but he noticed something troubling. She hesitated before applying one treatment, glancing toward a small communicator hidden beneath her uniform. "Commander," she said quietly, "my people are monitoring me. If they see me interfere too much, they may intervene." Ethan's jaw tightened. "We don't have time for caution. Do what you must to save them." Her eyes softened. "I will, but you must understand, my loyalty is divided." Despite the tension, Lyra worked tirelessly. Patience stabilized under her care, though the situation remained critical. Ethan could see the strain on her face, the subtle conflict in her eyes. She was saving lives, yet every action carried risk, for her and for the colony. After the immediate crisis, Ethan confronted her in private. "Lyra, you have to tell me everything. What exactly is your mission?" She hesitated, then spoke in measured words. "Commander, I was sent to study humans, to report on your ability to survive extreme challenges. My people believe humans are unpredictable. They want to measure that unpredictability. My reports influence decisions that could affect your entire species." Ethan ran his hands through his hair. "So everything, the strange recoveries, the way you handle patients, it's all part of their assessment?" She shook her head. "No. My personal involvement, my choices to intervene, to help, those are mine. I am beginning to question their orders. Humans, your resilience, your courage, it has changed me. I do not wish to see unnecessary suffering." Ethan felt a mixture of relief and concern. He admired her honesty, yet the knowledge of her mission weighed heavily. "Lyra, we can't stop you from being watched, but if you choose to help us, fully I will trust you, even if it means defying your own people." Her eyes widened slightly. "Commander, you would trust me, even knowing the risk?" Ethan nodded. "Yes. Humans adapt. We survive. And I believe you care more than you admit. That counts for something." Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. For a moment, the tension seemed to ease, replaced by a fragile bond between them. The following days were filled with constant pressure. Supplies arrived just in time. Medics worked around the clock, and Lyra guided them all with unerring skill. Yet Ethan noticed that her private communications increased. She whispered into the hidden device, carefully choosing words that would satisfy her superiors without endangering the colony. One evening, as Ethan walked past the medical bay, he saw her standing by a monitor, her eyes focused on incoming messages. He entered quietly. "Lyra," he said softly, "are you considering following their orders?" She turned, her eyes reflecting conflict. "Commander, they demand tests, conditions that could harm your people. I cannot obey fully, but I must appear compliant. It is the only way to protect the colony." Ethan stepped closer. "Then let me help. We can find a way to satisfy them, without risking lives." She studied him, then nodded slowly. "Perhaps. Humans, you are clever. That may be the key." The next challenge came suddenly. A report from the outer settlements indicated that the disease had mutated. Symptoms worsened, and some patients did not respond to treatments. Ethan and Lyra coordinated emergency measures. Humans improvised, using limited resources to create containment systems, isolation zones, and temporary medical devices. Lyra observed quietly, occasionally guiding them with subtle suggestions. Her admiration for human adaptability was evident, though she still concealed the full extent of her capabilities. Ethan noticed how quickly she began to trust human judgment, how her hands relaxed when medics followed their instincts rather than her instructions. Late that night, Ethan found Lyra alone in the observation deck, looking out at the colony lights. "Do you ever wonder," he asked quietly, "if your people will forgive you for helping us this way?" She sighed, her eyes distant. "Commander, I do not know. But I cannot ignore what I see. Humans, you deserve a chance. I will do what I can." Ethan nodded, understanding the courage it took for her to defy orders. "Then we fight together, you and us, and whatever comes, we face it as a team." Lyra turned, her eyes meeting his. For the first time, there was no hesitation, no doubt, only determination, and perhaps a hint of trust that went beyond duty. The colony would face many challenges in the days ahead, and the disease was far from over. But Ethan Kane knew one truth. The alien nurse who had entered his life carried secrets that could destroy or save them all. And now she had chosen her path, and it was side by side with humanity. In the quiet hum of the settlement, under the glow of distant stars, a fragile alliance had formed, bound by trust, courage, and a shared determination to survive. The real test was only beginning. The colony stirred with tension. Word had arrived from the Vaylans. They were displeased with Lyra's actions. Her superiors demanded full compliance, and a small strike team was on its way to enforce their orders. Commander Ethan Kane felt the weight of responsibility pressing down harder than ever. The lives of every colonist, human and alien alike, rested on their ability to act quickly and smartly. Lyra moved among the medics, her face calm, but her eyes betraying worry. "Commander," she said quietly, "if the strike team arrives, they may not listen to reason. They are trained to enforce protocol, not assess situations. We must prepare." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we fight smart, not just hard. We need defenses they won't expect. Improvised, human style." Over the next hours, the colony transformed into a fortress. Humans and a few loyal alien workers built barriers, set traps, and reinforced the medical center. Ethan led teams to organize supply routes, coordinate defenses, and ensure that no colonist was left vulnerable. Lyra worked alongside them, quietly guiding their strategy without revealing the full extent of her alien knowledge. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the first signals of the Veylan strike team appeared on the colony's sensors. Sleek ships hovered over the settlement, scanning and assessing. Ethan's pulse quickened. This was no longer a disease crisis. This was a confrontation with a species far superior in technology and firepower. "Lyra," Ethan said, "what do they expect?" "They expect compliance," she replied. "But humans, you are unpredictable. That is your advantage. Use it." Ethan nodded, understanding. The human strength was not in technology. It was in creativity, adaptability, and courage. That was what had always set them apart, and now it could save the colony. The first wave of the strike team descended, landing near the outer perimeter. Their presence was intimidating, clad in armor that shimmered with alien energy. Lyra stepped forward, hands raised in a gesture of communication. "Stop!" she called in the Veylan language. Her voice carried authority, and for a moment, the strike team hesitated. Ethan seized the moment. "Move to positions!" he shouted. Humans scrambled, using the terrain to their advantage. Makeshift barricades, tripwires, and clever distractions slowed the alien advance. Lyra worked with precision, guiding humans to exploit the Veylan's predictable patterns. She fed Ethan information about their technology, allowing humans to avoid traps and disable energy fields without confrontation. Every move they made was calculated but improvised, a dance of human ingenuity against alien order. Despite the chaos, Lyra's loyalty was clear. She fought beside them, using her insider knowledge to mislead the strike team. She redirected patrols, fed false data into sensors, and created openings for humans to move safely. Ethan watched her in awe, realizing that her choice to protect the colony came at immense personal risk. The battle was tense. Human medics treated the injured, while volunteers and soldiers worked in shifts, defending the colony. Ethan coordinated attacks, improvising strategies as the aliens adapted to their defenses. Time and again, human creativity turned the tide. Traps designed from simple tools forced the strike team to retreat and reconsider. At one point, a group of Valon soldiers broke through a barrier. Ethan and a team of colonists, including Lyra, confronted them directly. Using simple yet clever tactics, they created diversions, exploited terrain, and forced the soldiers to retreat. Lyra's guidance was critical. Her knowledge of their combat routines allowed humans to predict and counter moves that seemed impossible to anticipate. After hours of tension, the strike team retreated to their ships, sending a message to their superiors. Lyra's altered report had bought the colony time. The humans had survived, and their resourcefulness had impressed even the disciplined Valans. Ethan stood amidst the aftermath, surveying the colony. Humans had suffered minor injuries, but no lives had been lost. The disease was still a threat, but the alien intervention had been contained. Lyra approached him, her expression calm but tired. "Commander," she said softly, "your species, you are extraordinary. I had orders to test limits, to observe, but what I have seen, your courage, your creativity, it exceeds anything my people expected." Ethan felt a surge of pride. "You helped us win, Lyra. You chose to protect the colony even when your own people demanded otherwise." She looked down briefly, then back at him. "It was difficult. I risked much. But humans, you make choices based on reason, heart, and courage. That is rare. That is why I could not obey orders fully." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then stay with us. Help us rebuild, protect, and fight the disease. We will face what comes together." Her eyes softened, and for the first time, Ethan saw unguarded trust. "I will, Commander. I will." As night fell, the colony lit up with small fires glowing, windows, and the quiet hum of machinery. Humans moved among the buildings, tending to the sick, repairing defenses, and caring for one another. Lyra walked beside Ethan, her presence a reminder that even an alien could recognize human strength and choose to support it. For the first time, Ethan felt hope beyond survival. Humanity had faced superior forces, both natural and alien, and endured. They had won not through superior technology, but through ingenuity, courage, and collaboration. And in that victory, the bond between human and alien, between Ethan and Lyra, had grown stronger. The Valons would return, no doubt, but now the humans were ready. They had proven themselves capable, adaptable, and clever. And they had an ally who understood both worlds and who had chosen humanity. Ethan looked at Lyra, his heart steady. The colony had survived, and the fight was far from over. But for the first time, he felt certain of one truth. Together, humans and their unlikely allies could face anything. In the silent glow of the colony, under distant stars, a new chapter had begun, one defined by trust, courage, and the remarkable unpredictability of humanity. The colony stirred under the pale glow of distant stars, the aftermath of the strike team still fresh in everyone's minds. Commander Ethan Kane walked among the medics and colonists, checking supplies and ensuring the sick were stable. The disease was still a threat, but humans had survived the first wave of the alien test. Now, the bigger challenge loomed. A Valon fleet was on the way, sent to judge the colony's survival for real. Ethan paused to look at Lyra, who stood quietly in the medical bay, reviewing patient data. Her hands moved quickly across devices. but her eyes carried a determined focus he had not seen before. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. She looked up, her large eyes meeting his. "Commander, I do not know what will happen, but humans, you inspire me. I will do all I can to protect this colony." Ethan nodded. "Then we face it together. Whatever comes, we survive. That is what humans do." Over the next hours, the colony prepared for the fleet's arrival. Humans and alien allies worked together, reinforcing barriers, distributing medical supplies, and planning defenses. Every detail mattered, and Ethan relied heavily on Lyra's knowledge. She guided them in ways that merged human ingenuity with alien understanding, giving the colonists a unique advantage. When the Veylan fleet arrived, its size was intimidating. Sleek ships hovered in the sky, scanning the colony with precision. Instruments. Communication attempts were met with silence. Ethan gathered the human leaders and spoke firmly. "Listen carefully," he said. "They expect to see humans fail. They expect chaos. But we are not ordinary. We adapt. We survive. Remember your training, your instincts, and trust each other. Lyra will help us. Follow her guidance." Lyra nodded, stepping forward. "Commander, the Vaylans will test not just your strength, but your reactions, your creativity, your ability to survive under pressure. You must show them humanity is unpredictable. That is our advantage." The first wave of Veylan probes descended, scanning the colony and testing defenses. Humans improvised, using terrain, traps, and clever tactics to slow and mislead the probes. Lyra monitored their movements, feeding information to Ethan and the teams. Every decision they made was precise, yet flexible, a dance of unpredictability that the aliens could not anticipate. As the probes moved closer to the medical center, a critical moment arrived. A small group of Veylan soldiers attempted to breach the facility. Ethan led a human team with Lyra at his side, coordinating every move. "Move left. Use the barriers," she shouted. "Distract them with the signal decoy." Humans reacted instinctively. They placed a simple device powered with limited energy that emitted confusing signals. The Vaylans paused, unsure of what to trust. Ethan seized the opportunity, leading his team to block the entrance. Lyra worked quickly, using her insider knowledge to predict their next steps. She guided the humans to disable energy shields temporarily, creating openings for defensive maneuvers. Every move was precise, yet relied on human creativity and adaptability, qualities no machine or alien logic could fully predict. Hours passed, but the humans did not falter. Injuries occurred, but no lives were lost. The Vaylans observed, recalculating and reassessing. Ethan watched the fleet's response, realizing that human ingenuity, combined with Lyra's guidance, had turned the tide. Finally, the Veylan commander spoke through a universal translator. "Humans, you have demonstrated resilience and adaptability beyond expectation. Your species is worthy of observation and respect." Ethan exhaled, relief washing over him. Lyra stepped forward, her expression calm but proud. "Commander, your people have shown what I already knew. Humans survive, not just because of strength, but because of heart, courage, and creativity." The Veylan fleet began to withdraw, leaving the colony intact. Ethan turned to Lyra, a faint smile on his face. "We did it. Humanity survived, and we didn't lose a single life to the test." Lyra's eyes met his, and for the first time there was no hesitation. "We survived together, Commander. Humans, you inspire me. I am proud to stand with you." The colony celebrated quietly, tending to the injured, repairing damaged structures, and sharing relief among each other. Humans had faced a superior species, a deadly disease, and overwhelming odds, and they had prevailed. Their ingenuity, courage, and collaboration had won the day. That night, Ethan found Lyra on the observation deck looking out at the stars. The colony lay below, alive and thriving despite the challenges. He approached, standing beside her. "You risked much to help us," he said quietly. "Your loyalty. It means more than you know." Lyra turned, her large eyes reflecting the distant lights of the colony. "Commander, I had a mission, but watching humans, learning from you, I realized that some things are worth more than orders. Life, courage, hope. Your species has all of these. I chose to protect them." Ethan nodded, feeling a warmth he had not experienced in years. "I am glad you did, and I am glad you are here." They stood together in silence, looking down at the colony. The disease would still need attention, and challenges would continue, but for the first time there was certainty. Humans could survive, adapt, and thrive, even when faced with the impossible. And they were not alone. Lyra's mission had been secret, her loyalty tested, but she had chosen humanity. That choice had saved lives, inspired trust, and built a bond that crossed species. Ethan realized that the alien nurse he had admired, and perhaps loved, was now a true partner, someone who saw the value in human spirit and courage. As the stars shone above, Ethan knew one final truth. The galaxy had underestimated humans, but no longer. With courage, ingenuity, and allies like Lyra, humanity had proven that it could face any challenge, survive any test, and emerge stronger than ever. In the quiet night, under the glow of distant suns, a new chapter began, not just for the colony, but for humanity's place in the stars. And beside Ethan, Lyra watched, silent but unwavering, a guardian and witness to the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit.